Hey, it's Coach Taylor here from SmarterTeamTraining.com. I had an opportunity to reach out to a guy that runs an equipment company that I've seen and used for a while now, kind of secondhand, to be honest with you. When I get a chance to do consulting, or even when I was earlier in my career, I had a chance to get on some Keiser equipment. And I've just been very curious about some of the different protocols or program design or equipment evolution and that type of thing. And I simply just reached out to him, and he said, let's get on a show. So Dennis Keiser is the guy I got on the phone right now. So it's honestly a privilege and an honor to have him on the phone, man. I'm just excited to have a chat with him about something that I've been curious about for a while. So, Dennis, man, I thank you very much for getting on the show. I'm obviously carving out an hour of your busy day is very appreciated, and I'm looking forward to just having an outstanding chat, man.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, Coach.
I want to find about you as a person a little bit here, if you wouldn't mind. What kind of got you started in the field? What got you going down the path of producing products? And really, where does your passion come from for the field?
I actually came into the industry in 1973. Was hired by the manufacturer of the Universal gym equipment. Universal at that time didn't really do their own manufacturing, and they were based in Fresno, California, which is where my hometown is. But I was hired to design their first variable resistance equipment. Nautilus had come out with theirs in 1970, and so Universal, who was a leader going into the 70s, found themselves kind of having to catch up with this variable resistance concept. So I was hired by the manufacturer of the Universal equipment to design their first variable resistance machines. So I actually started out designing using weights, designing around weight stack machines.
I look at power, the explosion, or that type of thing when people get on the Keiser pieces, and I really think of it as that area for fitting in my program design. I mean, are there things that I should know before designing a power program for young athletes, and then as we progress through the ranks, college or pro, that type of thing, are there some other key components to success that I should be really aware of when I'm using the pieces of equipment that you provide?
The whole concept of the speed component came out of that early experience with Universal. After designing weight stack machines for 5 years, and realizing that we were trying to take a resistance system that no one had really paid much attention to as far as what the actual resistance was being applied to the body. In other words, when you lift the iron, number one, you're dependent upon this massive iron and the Earth's gravitational acceleration to create the resistance. And once you put that iron in motion, you've got extra forces to get it started, accelerate it, and you lose resistance at the end because it has to decelerate. And when we were designing variable resistance machines, we were really trying to design a force curve or strength curve for the machine that would mimic the subject's ability to produce those forces through the full range of motion. And as you know, that if you're close to your body, let's say you're doing a bench press, we are much stronger at the end range of our range of motion than we are when the bar's on our chest. So in Nautilus putting a cam on, or the things that I did with Universal, we would make that weight stack way less when the exercise arm was closer to your chest, and as you push that arm away from you, it would bring on more and more resistance. That was the whole concept of variable resistance. What that led to was now really starting to have to understand the exact forces that this iron weight stack was really providing, and this is where Nautilus in their training protocol was getting everybody to train extremely slow, out on 2 seconds, back on 4 seconds, because that was the only speed at which their machines were accurate. Universal, on the other hand, when I asked them, what speed do you want this machine to be accurate at, because the cam is fixed, the profile of the cam is fixed, so I have to design it around a particular speed, which means it's going to account for the certain acceleration forces to start that weight stack and to stop it. So they wanted to go out on 1 second and back on 1 second. So now you had these two companies through the 70s battling the speed of training. I wanted to get away from that dependence upon speed. And so that's what led to the pneumatic resistance. What we wanted to do was to create a very pure form of resistance, one that was not dependent upon gravity, one that didn't have a large amount of mass associated with it, so that we could now accelerate that exercise arm and not have to worry about extra forces to get it moving, or extra forces or losing resistance at the end to stop it. So it was basically a very pure resistance, and for the first time now, we had a machine that was faster than the human being. So no matter how fast you wanted to move through the exercise or through the range of motion, the machine would always provide the same resistance. And it was this variable resistance curve. What that allowed us to do now was to then start focusing on the speed component as well as the strength component of the movement. There are two parts to a movement, the force you produce and the speed at which you produce it. But we had only focused on the strength side of it when we were dealing with the iron, because we really couldn't do explosive work on it. So much so that many coaches today think that you can't improve speed, that it's basically a genetic thing, and it's not capable of being improved. That's not true at all. We just didn't have the tools to improve it until Keiser came along. So that was really the basis for the pneumatic resistance, is that we wanted to focus also on this speed component. So from a training standpoint, it just simply allowed us now to take the resistances, any resistance you wanted to move. Didn't have to be a light resistance, but any resistance you wanted to move, and simply move that resistance as fast as you possibly could, therefore generating the greatest amount of power that you could at that particular resistance.
When you're working with a beginner, someone who's just first time ever got on a piece of equipment, do you recommend starting with a particular tempo or load? I mean, how are you designing or able to adjust the pneumatic device that you get a chance to work with through your technology? And then obviously as they get stronger or get faster, or the combination of both, I mean, how do you progress them or regress them depending on where you are in a season or within an exercise plan?
Well, first and foremost, form is most important. So if they break form, whether the resistance is too heavy or they're trying to move too fast and they break form, that's when you have to step them back. So that falls, that's true for whether you're just dealing with the iron and lifting, or doing Olympic lifts, or you're dealing with the air. So that's first and foremost. So the beginner, they've got to be taught to move through the right range of motion with the right form. I don't start them out fast, because they'll have a tendency of breaking form if you try to move them too quickly. So once they start getting the pattern properly ingrained in their mind, and they can move safely through the range of motion that you want at the resistances that you're training them, then start bringing the speed on. And as long as they maintain the form, they can keep going for as much speed as they can get.
Anytime I'm going to talk to somebody who's designing equipment, just thinking outside the box, or as if there is no box kind of thing, I'm going to ask them if it's, what people are seeing or feeling and what they're hearing as far as the success stories, and then also to find out if there's any potential drawbacks or something they hear as something that they need to actually expand upon as far as their design. I mean, what benefits have you seen or witnessed from adding power training to a program, and then have there been any real drawbacks to just incorporating some of that higher speed type exercises into a program?
There are no drawbacks other than what we deal with, I think, when we're face-to-face with the coaches. I mean, you got to understand that we've been dealing with in this world of iron for a long time, and it's always going to be with us. It's a tool that will never leave our toolbox, but it's getting the coaches to understand the tools that they have in their toolbox. So often what we see, the biggest drawback isn't the training at speed with Keiser. The biggest drawback is getting the coach to understand this new tool and how to get the most out of it. I used the example of the other day in a seminar I was giving, that I said, the carpenter has a saw in his toolbox, and he gets on there and he moves this saw back and forth and he cuts the wood off. And then one day somebody hands him this powered circular saw to do the job faster and more efficient. But the carpenter fails to plug the saw in. So he's not getting the most out of that saw. In fact, it's probably not even doing the job that the manual saw would do. This is kind of what we see. People would buy Keiser because it's different. They buy into the concept partially, but they don't fully understand the real benefits and how to get the most out of it. And in the early days, the biggest problem we had is they bought it and used it as if it were an iron weight stack machine. And they really didn't get any other benefits than they would have gotten out of a weight stack machine. So, so often the coaches look at it and say, "Oh, that Keiser stuff, that's you train lightweight and at high speed with that." That's not true at all. Our leg press is a 1,500-pound leg press machine. Our squat machine is an 800-pound squat machine. These were not built for light duty. They were not built to just go fast and provide low resistance. They were built to provide high resistance and be able to move extremely fast through high resistance. That was the only way we were going to develop huge amounts of power in these athletes. I mean, when we trained Mike Powell, Mike broke Bob Beeman's long jump record. It was a 23-year-old record. It was a record that many people thought would never be broken. And Randy Huntington was Mike's coach. Randy was working for Keiser, still is working for Keiser. And Mike, with his skinny little distance runners looking legs, could squat 600 pounds, 650 pounds on that squat machine. He could squat over 500 pounds 7 times in 5 seconds. That's how extremely powerful he was. You're not going to jump 29 feet, 4.5 inches by just being fast. Carl Lewis was fast, but Carl Lewis didn't break the record. Mike Powell did. It takes both strength and speed to break that record, and that's what Mike had. But he got it only because he trained not only fast, but he trained at very high resistances.
With a product-based company, how important is educating the consumer? I mean, oftentimes I get a chance to talk to CEOs, even off the show here, and they're always asking, like, what are other people doing, or what do other people need in the field? And I always feel like I keep coming back to the concept of you have a cool product, but they may not know how to use it yet or implement it into their program. I mean, how important is that aspect of your business when you're talking about creating a product or a need for a product in the field?
That has been the hugest challenge that we've had. It continues today, even after 35 years. We have a product, and you've hit it smack on the head. You have a product. There's no question that it can do things that your other products cannot do. But when you sit down and you look at what a coach has to deal with, and he's got an in-season program, he's got an off-season program, and it's filled. It's filled with everything that he's really familiar with. And then all of a sudden you sit down and you start talking to him about Keiser. He buys into the whole thing. He understands the benefit of it, all of those kinds of things. But he doesn't know how to integrate it into his existing program. And these are the things that we're working on right now because it has just reached the surface. We've spent the last decade or so getting the coaches to really understand why we built what we did. It has just come to light very recently that our real big barrier now that they understand what we have, is how to integrate it into their existing programs. And so those are the things that we'll be coming out with. Education is the highest priority that we have right now when it comes to elite level performance.
I'll let you know about my background here for a second. I'm pretty much one of the Nautilus kind of guys. Is that the super slow protocols, the no momentum, you lift it, you hold it, you lower it type strength training program kind of guy. I don't have a big background in the Olympic lifts. To be honest with you, if we have athletes that are going on to colleges that are doing Olympic lifts, I bring somebody in to teach them. And then when they get to that college setting, then they're also taught that way, whatever that the way would be, and the coach's way of coaching them. So this concept here is very intriguing to me. I mean, can you do me a favor and offer some basic guidelines or even techniques that may be possible when using your training equipment that I can safely implement right from the beginning that kind of sticks to our rules but also expands what we can provide?
Well, what we're doing, and you come from a background that is kind of the other extreme of where we are. The time under tension, which is your super slow kind of training protocol, and people look at the time under tension. My concern with that is that you fatigue so rapidly doing a 10-second concentric movement that you don't necessarily get the full benefit of the overload. The other thing is what we have found over the years is the speed component is more a neuromuscular function, more of a brain-driven function than a muscle function. And so when we deprive ourselves of being able to move through a range of motion, going from point A to point B as fast as we possibly can, what we're doing is we're telling the brain automatically to shut down and limit the movement. If I tell somebody to go through a slow, controlled speed, I'm already putting the brakes on. And so from a beginner standpoint, if you've got somebody that's lifting and has good form, and you put them into a Keiser squat machine or a chest press or a leg press, and they get familiar with that range of motion, all you have to do is just simply say, look, now I want you to start going from point A to point B as fast as you possibly can. And you will find that it takes so much more effort to do that. You might get a little bit of noise out of them lifting heavy, but you tell them to go fast, and you're going to hear a grunt at the beginning of that movement that you've never heard, because that's what it takes. It takes every bit of mental concentration to fire everything in that muscle to make it contract as fast as you can possibly make it contract under the loads that it's doing. The idea is it's still about strength, but it's about strength at speed. In other words, what we want out of that muscle, it's easy to get a high force out of an isometric contraction. You just tension that muscle. But the real trick is maintaining a high force in that muscle while it is shortening rapidly. That's where the challenge is, and that's where the brain comes in. It has to maintain that high contractive effort on that muscle while it is shortening rapidly. So all you have to do is you take that semi-experienced lifter, athlete. If he's an athlete, he's a good athlete, and he's been working out, it's not a problem. Then you just simply put them on a Keiser piece, and you now get them starting to think in terms of moving faster and faster and faster. We've put coaches on our machines, and I have watched them, even though I tell them, go faster, they can't move fast. They don't even know how to move fast. It's very surprising. We have ingrained in ourselves through all of our training to move so slow that we don't even know how to move fast anymore. Until you get on a Keiser piece and you really let it go, you'll understand what I'm talking about.
I want to talk to you a little bit as a CEO or the owner of the business kind of scenario. From a branding standpoint, when developing a brand, I mean, what are some tips that you could share? I mean, we talk to our athletes on an individual, on a personal level, that each one of them is their own brand and they represent themselves in a bigger picture. But talking to a guy that, man, you're creating equipment and awareness and education and you're doing a lot of things there. I mean, how important is branding when you're developing a product?
It's very important, because if you don't define yourself, your competition will. We see that in politics all the time. So our brand, what we stand for, and it really starts, I guess it kind of starts with me, but it starts at the top and it has to run through the company. once it's through the company and once people understand that brand, then they're basically buying that brand. They're buying the company. They might buy an individual piece, but they're really buying what's behind that individual piece. And our company, if you look at what we do, everything we do is to move this industry forward. It would have been you ask a CEO the mistakes he's made at the beginning. One of the big mistakes was being too far ahead of our time, and that's not a compliment. It's all about timing. Everything in life is about timing. And there have been a lot of great ideas that were just too early. And our pneumatics was one of them. I didn't realize at the time that where the industry was. I came into it very naive, thinking that all I had to do was provide a better tool, and they would know how to use it. 30 years later, 35 years later, we're still educating. The reason that we've succeeded through all these years when others didn't is that you can't dispute the laws of physics. We have the laws of physics behind us. So our arguments are sound. All of that's in our favor. But the timing was real bad. Today, the timing is right for us, and that's why we're putting such a push on this. But we've been a company from day one that had a focus in mind, and that was to take training to a higher level. Everything that we do feeds that goal. And so we don't necessarily go by what, current thinking is or anything like that. There are a lot of early adopters out there. There are a lot of people that understand why we do what we do and use our tools very well. It's getting to that middle of that bell curve right now for us is where our challenges are. But as a company, the brand, the identity of what we stand for is basically the fact that we have a mission, and that is to continually push training to a higher level to get the absolute most out of this human engine. And that's basically what we are, engines. And my hobby, you wanted to know the personal side of me, my hobby is building high-performance engines. Okay? My business is to build high-performance human engines, but it's all the same. And when I sat down to design or build a high-performance mechanical engine, car engine, I look at it the same way as I look at building a high-performance human. When we built my pile, we built a high-performance engine there. That happened to be the right engine for a long jump race. And that's building as a strength coach. I really would prefer to use performance coach because strength coach puts too much emphasis on strength. I would rather us talk about performance because once you live in this world of performance and once you understand power and the fact that it is the key to performance and how speed plays a role in power, then you start to understand how to get the most out of these human engines. And you have to define the race that they're running. We have different engines all playing the same sport. We've got to understand the differences between our skilled guys in football, our backfield versus our linemen, in each of the positions that they play, and know what kind of engine we need there. And then build the right speed and the right strength in that engine.
I know you had an opportunity to inspire a lot of people, do a lot of incredible things from your staff, obviously speaking at conferences and events and just being around the field for a very long time. I mean, is there something that a professional should know about the field from an inspirational or motivational aspect? I mean, if someone's going to pursue their own desire to create products for the industry, or they're just trying to, like you had implied before, maybe they're just a little bit ahead of their time. Is there something you wouldn't mind sharing with them on the show here, just to continue to add fire to their cause?
Don't give up, but don't fall in love with your product either. I have probably at least 2 times a month people bring me products that they want us to build or partner with them, and I see products out there that probably don't have much of a chance, but they are so in love with their idea and they want to pursue this, that they put their life savings in it, and without ever going out and testing it in the marketplace. The very first thing we did was to build 10 leg extension machines. That's all we built, 10 leg extension machines. This was in 1978. And we put them out into the market, actually sold them. You can give anything away, so you don't want to give it away. We sold them. And then we got feedback, and we kept doing that. And let the market prove to us whether this was a viable product or not. If you can't sell it, and the problem is it could be a great idea, but it could cost too much, which means you still can't sell it. Then you need to be able to pull back and say, look, this is a business decision. This is not an emotional decision. If they'll just look at it from a business standpoint and don't get emotional about it, then they're more apt to be successful. So that would be, from an inventor standpoint, that would be, I think, the best information I could give them. The other thing is inventors, and I guess I have to consider myself one since I've got quite a number of patents, but inventors have a tendency of flitting from one idea to another without ever taking any particular idea to a point where they can make money on it. Now, if they're independently wealthy and they don't have to worry about it, I guess that's great, but that wasn't our case. And so any idea that we come up with, we have to be able to put it into the marketplace. So that means that as an inventor, I don't get the luxury of just flitting from one idea to another without ever having to make it successful in the marketplace. So it's that discipline that you really have to dig down deep in and say, look, I've got to make a commitment to this product if I think that it's going to be good. I can't just build a prototype, be happy with seeing the prototype, and then jump to the next idea.
Well, Mr. Keiser, I know you're a busy man, and I appreciate you taking some time out of your day here just to talk shop. I took a bunch of notes that I'm sure that we'll go over here after the show here a little bit. I probably have even more questions for you going down the road as well. If anybody had any questions about anything we discussed, they wanted to find out more information about what you got going on at Keiser there, or maybe even where you're going to be at a trade show or even presenting and that type of thing, I mean, how can they go about finding more information about what you have going on, man?
Our website, which is Keiser.com, and Keiser spelled Keiser, Keiser.com is our website. They can call into our office and get any information on trade shows or where I might be speaking, or we might have speakers. We do power summits. I would encourage them to attend those. But they can call our office at 559-256-8000 and get information there. And they can also, the office can steer them towards our salespeople who have information. Our salespeople have been with us average probably 10 or 15 years, so they're well versed on our products and why we do what we do. So that would be the best way to contact us initially.
I'll give you a little plug, Dennis, if you don't mind. I actually called into the office there. Just wanted information just to read up on, what Keiser was about, what training with air was about, the pneumatic scenario of our field. I mean, I feel like you've implied, man, you're a little bit ahead of the game as far as the timing goes, and it's neat to see that people are starting to ask questions about what other products are out there and what other things we can do to provide a safer training environment and hopefully a more efficient training environment for athletes to achieve their own greatness. And I thought your staff did an unbelievable job of not being a used car salesman, but they were listening to what I was asking for, providing me with information so I can become an educated consumer. And it was neat to see the relationship just go back and forth on email and just have a couple different connections within the field that we could discuss, and some similarities and some differences, and be very open to a conversation that a lot of times some people get, like you implied before a little bit, they just kind of get stuck in their own way and they don't really want to listen to what someone has to ask or a response that may be necessary to pursue more questions down the road. So, man, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your days to talk shop, and I'm looking forward to just hopefully generating a relationship here moving forward. Hopefully this is a launching pad for us to do some things down the road, and I look forward to just keeping in touch, my man.
I would love to. And one last thing, we talked about inventors and people getting into this business. Coaches coming into the business. Probably the best advice I could give a young coach coming up is keep a very open mind. Some of the things that we're doing are decades old. I'm going to give you a quick example. We talked about variable resistance at the beginning of this program. Variable resistance was not invented by Nautilus. It was introduced to our current industry by Nautilus in 1970. It was actually invented in 1898 by Max Hertz in Austria-Hungary. It was invented before man's first powered flight. It was just introduced and accepted into our industry after we landed a man on the moon and returned him safely to Earth. That is how slow our industry moves. To a guy like me, that's very frustrating. To a coach who wants to really move training to a higher level and get the most out of these human engines that he's dealing with or she's dealing with, I encourage you to come into this industry with a very open mind and understand the tools that you have and the limitations of the tools that you have, and start to look at what you want to achieve and then grasp those tools that will do the best job for you. We have a tendency of kind of coming out of a stable, whether it's an Olympic lifting college that you were assistant in, and adopting those kind of practices and carrying them through life. And it's a simple world. The world of strength is a very simple world. All I have to do as a strength coach is make you stronger today than you were yesterday. But when we start looking at this world of power, and we now start looking at the speed component, it's now a matter of how much speed, how much strength, where do I want the strength in this speed spectrum, and how much power can I get out of this individual, and then understanding the race that I'm going to run with this individual. What is the sport that they're going to do? What does it take to decelerate this individual on the pitch or on the field? What's it take to decelerate them and accelerate them in the opposite direction? Because I've got to be able to generate the strength around that muscle shortening, lengthening to slow him down, and then shortening to get him propelled in the opposite direction. So what are those kind of strengths and speeds that I need to be training this individual at, and start training them at those kind of performance speeds? So keep an open mind, and you're going to be a very, very successful performance coach.
I think that's great advice, Dennis. Again, I really appreciate you sharing that story there. Thank you very much for your time there. Again, I'm looking forward to keeping in touch. I'm still typing as you're talking here, so hopefully we'll get a chance to follow up here with a ton of things. And again, let's do something down the road here, my man. Let's connect again, and hopefully inspire others to become great through educating others, man. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to keeping in touch, big dog.
My pleasure. Thank you, Coach.